The fabled empty Harbinger seat continues to be one of Genshin's most interesting mysteries, with many theories speculating that the Harbinger has been lost to time, killed, or even a bigger threat than the others above them. But today, I want to look at the 10th Harbinger seat and propose a question. Was Diluc's dad the 10th Harbinger? And if he was, what would the ups and downs of that be in the entire lore of the Fatui? Now, here's a bit of a disclaimer before we begin. This isn't the first time that either you or I have heard of this theory, and this is definitely not something new. I had this idea for a long time in the past because, well, Diluc's plot was kind of related to delusions, but the moment that the people realized that the 10th seat was empty, everyone just kind of started theorizing, so I by no means claim that this premise is uniquely my own. I just want to expand it with what we know now about the Fatui, considering that this is a pretty outdated theory, and how it works with the current information we have today. So, let's begin. Kripos is the deceased father of Diluc and Kaya and head of the Dawn Winery. Little is known about Kripos, but that he dreamed to be a part of the Knights of Favonius, but did not qualify to be a member, stating that he wasn't fit for the job. However, he told Diluc that the gods also had other plans for him, leaving vague the meaning of those words. He appeared in the manga briefly as a supporting character, but ultimately killed in a fight with Ursa the Drake after using a mysterious delusion. However, his fight against Ursa the Drake was covered by the Knights of Favonius, leading to Diluc leaving them. So let's entertain the possibility that Kripos is the 10th Harbinger. I want to look at the story with that lens and see what could actually change. Number 1. That would explain why Kripos has a delusion for some reason. One of Genshin's unexplained plotlines is how Kripos, and subsequently Diluc, get a hold of the delusion that was used to stop Ursa the Drake. Well, him being the 10th Harbinger would provide an explanation on how he got that thing. Number 2. Kripos' words to Diluc regarding how the gods had other plans for him would be explained, and this would expand Kripos' character. A human who was denied entry into the Knights of Favonius and who was shunned by the gods, rose up to the power of Harbingers through influence, similar to Pandalone. Mind you, Kripos is by no means a nobody in the eyes of Mondstadt. He is an esteemed member of society. He definitely have the wealth and influence that the Fatui are looking for from a political perspective. This could also just imply that Kripos has a change of heart somewhere along the lines and decided to abandon being a Harbinger. Number 3. This would actually be a good motivator and recontextualization for Diluc's investigation of the quote-unquote truth. Diluc's investigation in his character stories are motivated by him wanting to find the truth, and that leads him to discover several things about the Harbingers. And I quote, "Diluc traveled all across the 7 nations of Tevat in search of the truth. All clues pointed toward a behemoth of an organization, the Fatui. He learned that they made counterfeit visions in secret, calling them delusions. A delusion could amplify the power of its bearer to its extreme, but also carried the risk of backfiring. That was what had caused his father's death. Was it possible that his father could have obtained such a sacrilegious item in order to do good? Diluc knew he may never know the full truth, but that could never stop him from pursuing it. Like an eagle scouring the wilderness, he set off on his hunt for the truth. Determination burned like fire in his heart. Unfathomable enigmas and unending battles could not sway him from his course. He pressed on relentlessly, scarred but undeterred, like a fiery tornado burning through the dense fog of mystery. The Fatui's rulers, the Harbingers, monitored Diluc's progress from the shadows. The prowess with which he laid waste to numerous Fatui strongholds caught their attention and forced them to take action. Number 4. This would actually further Ursa the Drake and the Fatui's involvement. Kaya already explained that the Fatui are intending to create discord in Mondstadt, then getting rid of those discords and playing the hero. Also that Mondstadt is indebted to them, and one method that they did this was by instigating Ursa's attack through a metal bug. This attack could have been an assassination attempt by the Fatui to get rid of Kripos once and for all, and maybe even Diluc and the Knights of Favonius. Now, what about the more subtler implications of this theory being true? Number 1. This would mean that the Fatui Harbingers had a betrayal in their history. The relationships of the Harbingers have been complicated enough as it is, but the 10th seat being missing and never talked about because of a betrayal would put an interesting perspective. Betrayal within the Harbingers would damage their reputation if revealed to the public, and that would also seed internal discourse within. Number 2. This would also open the possibility that the Knights of Favonius concealing the truth is because they don't want people to know that Kripos not only helped slay Ursa, but that the esteemed owner of the Dawn Winery had used a delusion or had connections with the Fatui Harbingers. Number 3. It's possible that the 10th position isn't that high-ranking enough that would really require Creepus to be all god and all-night powerful. He'd be put in a similar situation like Pantalone. Number 4. Creepus being an ex-Fatui Harbinger could be a good start to several minor plotlines with the relationship of the Fatui and Mondstadt. With Creepus out of the way, this would give Dottore a clear opportunity to capitalize on Mondstadt's weakening defenses and claim prestige by slaying Ursa the Drake. This would also mean that Pantalone's side plot of controlling Mondstadt to the wine economy would be unbarred by an ex-Harbinger. Number 5. This would reveal the harsh reality of the Harbingers, that their lives really are cut short by the delusion, and why most of them have unnatural means of preserving their immortality, such as Dottore's cloning techniques and Signora's Crimson Witch corruption. Now, if this theory was going to be confirmed in the future, there would be a lot of downsides actually. Number 1, this would push the 10th Harbinger storyline into less of a divine perspective and into a more political narrative instead, with a central character. My biggest concern with this is that it might not be the resolution people want for the missing 10th Harbinger. The plotline has expectations, and if they do this reveal, and don't do it right, people can get disappointed. Placing Creepus as the 10th Harbinger would remove the 10th Harbinger position from Irminsul or other divine fate-altering possibilities and instead focus on something political, where the Harbingers had one of their men removed because of politics. Now, my own problem for this is that the longer a story and a mystery goes on for, the higher the stakes for the reveal are. If Creepus was the 10th Harbinger and there wasn't a good enough backing for it or why he betrayed the Harbingers, then people would really feel cheated. Number 2, this also doesn't explain why Scaramouche, someone who betrayed the Fatui, doesn't even talk about the existence of a 10th seat. And this includes Tartaglia and Arlecchino never mentioning it even once. It honestly feels kind of strange that they'd be willing to talk crud about everyone else, but not about the 10th seat, or even mention that the 10th position exists. Number 3, if Creepus is already a figure that is well known in Mondstadt, shouldn't the Fatui have tried at some point to end him right there and then? There's something off-putting about a lack of assassination attempts on Creepus's life, and even Diluc's or Kaya's. The Fatui Harbingers aren't the kind of people that would allow betrayal from within their ranks, and even worse, let that person go years without supervision and live a relatively comfortable life. Creepus isn't exactly in hiding. Honestly, a simple quote-unquote accident would be more than enough. Number 4, what about the delusion? We see that Creepus's delusion looks significantly more different than that of the Harbingers we know today. And it even acts more differently. Well, there's 2 possibilities. One is that Creepus could have changed it from the original frame, which isn't completely impossible. But honestly, the more likely one is that it's from a different manufacturer. Delusions have different sources of power with varying levels of stability. The core component is that they're all made from Archon residue, or even Demon God residue. The Harbinger's delusions come from the power of the Tsaritsa, allegedly, and presumably is more stable than the ones that Scaramouche was making in the black market of the Inazuma Archon quest through the Tatsugami. Dottore and his lackeys were also able to harness a god's power from Sumeru known as the Deep. So him having a delusion doesn't exactly mean that he's a Harbinger. Number 5. There's also the importance of the 10th seat not just being missing, but also being avoided. Seat replacements in Genshin have been a continuous question in the lore, as seats can be left missing for various reasons. For example, Signora's 8th seat was left open for unknown reasons, maybe out of respect for the Harbinger or a lack of a replacement. So if Creepus was a traitor and they were covering it up, wouldn't it be logical that they keep the 10th seat occupied? It's not like there wasn't a ready replacement either, since around the time of the death of Creepus, Tartaglia would have been the 11th Harbinger. Number 6. There's a slight discrepancy in the lore regarding who killed Ursa the Drake. Dottore in the manga is the one that got rid of Ursa the Drake permanently, which is why the Fatui were able to leverage their connections in Mondstadt to such a large political scale. This is also really important because Fatui's business is still relevant in Mondstadt to this day. However, the Hidden Strife letter states that the credit for the defeat of the Drake was stolen by Inspector Irok. The writer of the letter solemnly states that the accomplishment should have gone to Creepus instead, but we know that the manga states that Dottore got the credit, so what's going on? My personal guess is that these 2 incidents are separate. Irok got the credit for the initial defeat 3 years ago, then Dottore got the credit for permanently killing the Drake. Whether either is of more prestige will be up for you guys to decide. But what do you think? I'm sure that I've missed a lot of things, some good, some bad, when it comes to this theory that Diluc's dad is the 10th Harbinger. But this theory has been cooking for years, and honestly, it's one of those theories that feel like it's just a fill in the blanks with what little we know. The reason it seems somewhat plausible is because we don't have any level of concrete understanding about the 10th position in the first place. But what do you think? Do you think that the Harbinger is Diluc's dad, or do you think it's someone else entirely? Anyway, my name is Aster, and thank you for chilling with me. Bye-bye!